Welcome to the first episode of QuaranTEEN Cooking. I'm hoping this is going to be a little series, and I sort of was thinking like we're all kind of cooped up here, and I feel like this is a really good time to do something creative, to learn a new skill, and to maybe in the end have something really delicious to eat and share with your friends or family or whoever you're sheltered in place with. So the idea is this is a class all inspired by my latest cookbook, which is called Prep, the Essential College Cookbook. You don't have to be a college student or even a teenager to participate. The idea is just simple recipes that are tasty. It's great for new cooks, for young cooks, for experienced cooks. And today's recipe is from my chapter that I call Fix a Killer Plate of Pasta. And it's called Genius Spaghetti with Tomato Sauce. And it's based on a very famous recipe by an Italian cookbook author named Marcella Hazan. And I call it genius because it's only 4 ingredients in this sauce. So it sort of goes against this idea that to make a pasta sauce, you have to really know Italian cooking or you have to babysit a pot all day. This is so simple. So all we need for this sauce is a can of tomatoes, an onion, salt, and some butter. So I'm going to start by cutting the onion and showing you how to do that. You don't need to chop the onion. This is kind of a nice recipe because if you're really sensitive to onions and they make you tear up, that's not going to happen here because this goes so quickly. You want a good sharp chef's knife, ideally. I know everyone doesn't have one, so just find your sharpest knife. I like to hold my knife like this. I think a lot of people hold a knife like that. You have more control if you have this finger kind of gripping. But obviously you don't want your finger to slip down because then you're kind of in danger of hurting yourself. And then you really want to anchor whatever you're cutting with your hand really well. So this is very wobbly, it's not stable. So I'm going to anchor it with this hand, pressing down, and then I'm just going to cut this right in half, like this. I washed the onion beforehand, so don't have to worry about dirt getting into the inside of the onion. So then all we want to do is trim off the edges and peel off the papery skin, and just to get to the good flavorful center bits. And you can see this just goes super quick. And I like to cut it first because then it makes it really easy to peel. There's still a little bit of peel there, so I'm going to just lop that off. And you can see I'm cutting on the I'm not cutting on this side. You're always looking for that stable surface. So then we're going to cut these guys off. Watch your fingers, and then peel back again the skin. And that is all you're going to do with your onion. And I'm done with my knife. Actually, I'm going to use it for one other little thing. So that's all you're going to do with your onion. Then you're going to get a pot. You want kind of a medium-sized pot. Too little and your sauce is going to bubble over. Too big, the sauce will kind of cook off, the liquid will cook off too quickly. And then you're just going to take a can of whole peeled tomatoes. This is a 28-ounce can. If you want, you can certainly use two 14-ounce cans, 14.5-ounce cans. You really want to take care with the lid. It's really sharp. It's like a little knife. So sometimes if you need to get that lid open, use a spoon. And then I like to just put a little bit of water in this and get every last drop of those yummy juices and dump that out. And then when you go to put your can in your recycling, make sure that lid is in there because whoever's taking out the garbage, my husband actually ended up in the ER one time because he cut his thumb on the lid of a salsa jar that was discarded. Okay, so we've got our tomatoes in here, and you can see this is what they look like. These are actually fire roasted, so there's a little bit of blackening, but either way, that was all that they had in the store. So we're going to actually get in here with our hand, and I'm just squeezing each tomato into kind of bits. If you're a new cook or you're just don't like your hands getting messy, you could certainly get a big old fork or like a potato masher and do this with that. So I'm sort of done there. The other thing about this, especially in these times, is you want to make sure your hands are super clean before you start cooking. And my girls, I have 3 daughters, teenagers and college students, and they've taken to singing their favorite song while they wash their hands to make sure they're washing them long enough. Anyway, so that's done. I'm going to just quickly rinse my hand. Okay. And then we're going to just nestle these onions in here. This is kind of a big onion. You could use something a little smaller. And you can use a white onion, a yellow onion, you could even use a red onion. And then the other ingredient that goes in here is 4 tablespoons of butter. And what's really nice about butter, and I think new cooks might not know this, is you don't have to pull out your tablespoon measure to measure your butter. The measurement is written right on that stick of butter out in tablespoons. So each stick of butter is 8 tablespoons. So we're going to cut it in half. That's 4 tablespoons. I have this recipe on my blog, which is Mom's Kitchen Handbook, and I make it with a little less butter and a little bit of olive oil. You can kind of play around with that depending on what you like. I just wanted to show you the most simple version possible today. So you just stick your butter in there, and then we're going to put some salt in. So I always keep a kind of little vessel of kosher salt near the stove. That's kind of my go-to cooking salt. I'm going to put this aside. I really like the texture. I find it really easy to use with my hands. I pretty much use it in almost everything, but I'm going to use a teaspoon, kind of scatter that in. But if you only have, say, fine sea salt, or this might be the most familiar to a lot of you, this is an iodized salt, it's finer. To me it has kind of a metallic taste, but you can absolutely use that. This is such an unfussy recipe, you're really able to flex a lot. So that is it for our pasta sauce. So now I'm going to take it over to the stove and show you what comes next. Okay, so we've got it on the stove there. I'm going to put it on a high heat. What we want to do is rapidly bring it to a boil, so we've got it on the highest heat possible. And I'm going to take you over here because I started this earlier. You can see it's boiling now. So that's what a boil looks like. As soon as it hits a boil, then you want to peel back. You want to peel way back so that it just simmers. You basically are just going to set your timer for 40 minutes and your sauce is going to be done after that. And what you see in here is as it's not boiling yet, but you can see right here it's starting to bubble a little bit, and eventually your butter is going to melt, and at some point you just want to get in here and stir, when that butter melts, stir that in. So we're going to just leave that to get to a simmer at some point. The other thing I have going is I've got some pasta water going. So I'm going to show you a little bit about cooking pasta. I have a few pointers. So you want a lot of volume of water. That allows the pasta to really float in there and get cooked evenly. The other thing I like to do is I like to generously salt my pasta water. So I've got a pot boiling here. A lot of the volume is actually cooked off because it's been going for a while, but I'm going to show you. I just throw like a handful of salt in there. Okay, now the pasta itself, you can use any shape that you like. I'm using spaghetti. And the recipe calls for 12 ounces, and that's because that's about the right volume of pasta for the amount of sauce you make. So typical box of pasta is 16 ounces. And so what I usually do is I do have a kitchen scale, but it's very easy to eyeball it. So I just kind of pull this out. I kind of look at, okay, so that's probably about 8 ounces. And then half of that is probably about 12 ounces. And then you're going to just add it to your pasta cooking water, and it'll kind of sort of get in there, and then just give it a stir. Okay, so then the next thing you need to do or be aware of is keeping an eye on your pasta. So, any package of pasta you buy is gonna tell you about how many minutes it takes. But honestly, the best way to learn how to cook is to taste. So even though it might tell me the spaghetti is going to take 9 minutes, I'm going to go and taste it somewhere along the way. And so obviously we just put it in there, but what I might do in another 8 minutes is take some tongs, go over to the pot, pull out a strand, taste it. You want it to be firm, you don't want it crunchy, but you don't want it soft. And then when it's ready, you're gonna take a good colander, a big colander, you're gonna set it in your sink, sturdy, somewhere where it's not gonna wobble and fall over. And then you wanna get some good hot pads, get your pot, make sure there's no one in the way, alert everyone in the kitchen that you're about to drain pasta, and then bring it to the sink and pour it out. We're gonna go back over and I'm gonna show you how to finish this whole thing. So this is the one I made earlier, this little vessel. And a couple things. You want to, now you're not gonna eat that onion. The onion really was just there to season the sauce during those 40 minutes. So you're gonna, at this point, you're gonna take a spoon. I happen to have, this is called a slotted spoon, which is a nice thing to have because the liquid drains out. And you're gonna just remove your onion, like this. And try to let all those yummy juices and little bits stay in the pot. And then you've got your sauce. So you can see what it looks like. It's kind of reduced, it smells amazing. It's a little bit of a chunky sauce because all we did was smash it with our hands. If you want a really smooth sauce, you could put an immersion blender in here, or you could throw it in a blender, you could throw it in a food processor and run it, and it'll be like silky smooth. I happen to like this texture, but everybody's different, and that is kind of the beauty of home cooking, is that you can make it your own. I'm gonna get a facial steaming in this tomato sauce. So the other important thing, we talked a little bit about tasting the pasta, same thing goes for the sauce. So you want to taste everything. So this is a little bit hot, I'm gonna let it cool for a sec, because you wanna know, like, did I get the salt right? Do I want some pepper in here? If you like spice, you might wanna put some hot chilies. I mean, this is a basic sauce that you can use on pasta or pizza, or put it in your lasagna, or put it on your meatball sandwiches. And then I'm gonna show you how this comes together. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna use this tasting spoon, because then I can use this for my pasta. So I think it's so good. It's so simple, but it's so lovely and delicious. I really can't wait for you guys to make it. Maybe some of you are making it right now as we speak. Okay, so you can just get your pasta. This is probably about the amount in a serving. It's probably about 3 ounces, maybe it's a little more. This recipe is intended to serve, I would say probably 4 people, but if you're a big eater, you have big eaters at your table, maybe you want to double it. You could certainly freeze the extras. And then you can just spoon your sauce right on top. And people can do their own, or you can dump the pasta in the pot and do it all at once. Like that. You could throw meatballs on here, you could put sausages in here, you could throw some leafy greens, like if you like kale or spinach, that type of thing. Okay, and then the last thing, I love a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top of this. So I've got a nice chunk. This is Parmigiano Reggiano. It's like the OG quality Parmesan. It's aged. It smells amazing. If you've never used Parmesan like this, it's really worth trying. You can absolutely buy pre-shredded Parmesan, but this is just going to be so much more flavorful and fresh, and it lasts a long time. So just before serving, you just want to give that a nice shower of Parmesan. You could use Pecorino too if you like Pecorino. It's another type of Italian cheese. And then you've got your lunch or your dinner ready to go. Maybe make a salad. It's delicious. So that's it. That's our first quarantine cooking. Please leave any questions or comments here, and we'll get on here and answer anything you want to know. If you have ideas for other things you'd like to cook in a future series, I'll continue to use prep as my inspiration. You can, if you don't have a copy, you can get it from Amazon, and I'm also seeing a lot of local booksellers who are doing phone orders, and I think trying to support our local businesses is a really good time. So I hope this was fun for you. I hope you enjoy this and share it with your family. See you next time.